Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today I'm bringing you the book coffee tag. Or is it books and coffee tag? I don't know which. If you've watched my channel long enough, you've probably realized that I really like coffee. There are often times in videos, there are jump cuts of me drinking coffee and whatever have you. There's almost always coffee on my desk whether or not it's in the video. I drink coffee every single day, and so, you know, blending books and coffee is just such a beautiful idea, why not? There are 8 questions or types of coffee, so let's just get on with it. Black, the way that I drink my coffee basically every day. Name a series that's tough to get into but has hardcore fans. For this, I'm going with the Song of Ice and Fire series because while I absolutely love these books, I have various friends and family members who have tried to read them because they like the show and cannot get into them. They find them very dense and they are very difficult to get into. But the fan base of the book readers is incredibly hardcore. And then you can do anything so much as even looking at the wiki of Ice and Fire to realize how hardcore the fans are. They pick out all of these details. So while the books are very hard to get into, they are so enriching and people get so much out of them that the fan base is therefore incredibly devoted. Peppermint Mocha, the one thing I treat myself to every single winter. Name a book that gets more popular during the winter or a festive time of year. I love reading Harry Potter around Christmas, and maybe it's because they always have like the chapter that's devoted to Christmas and it just makes me feel all happy and festive. Hot chocolate, something I actually never really liked as a kid. What is your favorite children's book? It's actually a really hard question because I read a lot as a kid. But if I had to pick a book series that I genuinely think is aimed at a young audience, despite the fact I didn't read it till I was older, it would have to be the Guardians of Childhood series by William Joyce. These are aimed at young readers. I didn't read them till I was like 22, and I just went, holy crap, I wish I had these as a kid. Because they're wonderful. Double Shot of Espresso. Name a book that kept you on the edge of your seat from start to finish. I'm gonna go with Illuminae by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman because pretty much opens with a bang, and I was holding my breath through a lot of the book, and I wasn't realized I was doing it till like my chest started hurting and I was like, oh, and I went, oh god, did I just not breathe for like a minute or something? I don't know what just happened. It never takes a break. Ever. Pretty much keeps you in a state of high anxiety for the whole thing. It's awesome. Starbucks. Name a book that you see everywhere. Oh god, I don't know. I mean, there's so many books that I basically see everywhere. But in this case, I'ma go with The Da Vinci Code by Dan Brown. Mainly because the first time I was really aware that I was seeing a book everywhere was when The Da Vinci Code was really popular and it had just come out. I was on vacation with my family in France and we flew into Charles de Gaulle and we were waiting for a connection to get to Nice, and I remember just seeing it everywhere. I saw it in the airport in the States, I saw it in Charles de Gaulle. It was just everywhere. And not only that, when we were in Paris and we were in the Louvre, they were doing Da Vinci Code tours. So it was sort of this idea of like, wow, I didn't realize that this book was everywhere. And that was actually where I read it. I read it in Charles de Gaulle, waiting for our connection to Nice. Either that was a really long connection or it's just the fact that I read particularly fast. I finished it, but that was sort of my realization of the idea of, oh, this is a bestseller. It is everywhere. It took me a long time to kind of get on board with that concept, actually. That Hipster Coffee Shop. Give a book by an indie author a shout out. Oftentimes I don't really realize when something is or isn't an indie author. I don't know why. So this is actually an easy one for me. Before I might have actually struggled because I'd be like, does this count as an indie author? I don't really know. Like, how do I count an indie author? In this case, this I know is an indie author because he self-published his book and I happen to know him in person. So I'm going with Ward Howarth for River City Blues. This is a historical mystery thriller that's actually set in Richmond, Virginia, and I got the ARC from Ward to give it a read through. I really enjoyed this book, and this is not a genre that I read all that much. I've talked before how I really don't often end up enjoying thrillers, so the fact that I really enjoyed this was, for me, a good sign that, okay, it's clearly something about the writing and the way the plot's been constructed. This is available in both print and ebook. I will list down below the places where you can get it. So if you're at all interested in picking up a really good historical thriller, this is something to check out. Oops, I accidentally got decaf. See, this basically never happens to me. If I'm drinking decaf, it is the evening and I made a conscious choice to get decaf. But moving on. Name a book you were expecting more from. If you were watching my channel back in, say, February, maybe March, I referenced a book called The Immortals by Jordana Max Brodsky, and I did a full review on it, and I basically said everything I loathed about this novel. And I initially had not planned on reading it, and then there was a review, I believe on the Barnes & Noble Science Fiction and Fantasy blog, which was really positive and hit all these little things that piqued my interest. I got so excited, and I started it, and it started off really strong, so my expectations got pretty high. And then it all kind of went downhill and never stopped going downhill, and now I have just a bad taste in my mouth when I think about this book, and which was very disappointing for me because I ended up getting these really high and positive expectations for this book, and it fell flat on its face. And oh boy. Finally, the perfect blend. Name a book or series that was both bitter and sweet, but ultimately satisfying. There are many series I could name for this because most of my favorite series are bittersweet endings. In fact, I quite like bittersweet endings. So I could list any of these series, which I'm gonna show here. But I wanna go with a standalone that was so heartbreakingly beautiful and bittersweet that I'm still kind of not over how beautifully bittersweet it was. And that is The Strange and Beautiful Sorrows of Ava Lavender, which involves a lot of magical realism, but it's an incredibly bittersweet novel. It is ultimately satisfying, but it's incredibly bittersweet, and it's heartbreaking to read. And it's a combination of both the plot and the beauty of the writing. The writing is so stunning in this book. I'm not over it. And, oh man, even thinking about it just sort of just like makes my heart hurt a little because it was so bittersweet yet so beautiful. That book was so bittersweet, and it was like perfect. Like, I don't think there was anything about it I would change. It's the perfect blend of bitter and sweet and magical realism and talking about intense topics, and just it's so good. It's so good. But that's it for me today, you guys. So until next time, cheers.